what has actually then started off, and I can see that is happening now from most countries. Um, One was the fact that a lot of countries got worried and stockpiling started happening. So in the FMCG sector, uh, people were starting to start looking at why should I export? I should start looking at keeping the produce for my own country's consumption. That period lasted for a month and a half. As you know, most of the countries were desperately piling up on food grains, on other supplies. It was only after that countries ensured about their own supply chains that they started thinking a little bit wider and broader to say, now what? Especially countries that had a lot of farming industry, produce industry. Australia, New Zealand, which are heavy industries or in countries with a lot of dependency on the agricultural exports,
Yeah, dairy,
uh,
dairy and all that.
dairy, meat, etc. Or even for that matter, in the European side, most of the countries do export a lot of their produce. And that, I guess, started uh, the journey for the air freight industry, right? There was a lot of demand now because while ships were not flying as much as possible, there was then a desperate need to start looking at air freight as an option. So with the result now that most countries are exporting, they have started moving things more by air freight. A few ships now. There are countries where the governments are actually subsidizing heavily on the air freight side. The government wants to ensure that they also shore up their own, uh, their own industry and as well as their own population by making sure that they are able to sell the goods in a viable state or in a
Mhm.
viable price range. And so they are subsidizing a lot of air freights, and that is something that is actually happening. But yeah, bottom line, price of goods have gone up significantly. But the countries where you are having your own produce, well, I think FMCG sector has been hit, and I think it will continue to be a cause of concern for some time to come. Right? If you look at the F&B industry,
Mhm.
which is another big industry that it takes a lot of fresh produce, meat, poultry, etc. They have been badly hit, right? And as a result, most of these F&B outlets, hotels, the tourism industry, they were the ones who were buying a lot and lot of these produce, right? In the shipping industry, we have what we call the victualling process, right? Victualling is where you supply the goods whenever a ship docks into your port. And the biggest industry uh, that victualling used to happen with was the cruise liners,
Okay, okay.
and the cruise liners have stopped flying, right? So all of that industry is currently at a very what I call almost at a standstill, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And that means again this is having an impact on farmers trying to get rid of produce locally. Locally, of course, people are not buying so much. So what do you do? Companies are also innovating some of the product lines. They are coming up with new product lines that are getting more into demand because people are working at home or from home. I would say uh, most of the food industry, that used to be in the ready-made uh, industry, that has slowed down quite a lot, right? Because people are able to cook at home now. They are more comfortable being working from home. They have the time to cook. They don't go out to just work 9 to 5, come back, and then used to eat frozen food or ready-made off-the-shelf food. That sector has come down. Western countries today, only produce raw materials, right? I mean, you look at Australia, you look at US, you look at any other big nation. All they are doing is mining their raw materials and sending it to China to be processed, correct? Or they are getting all their components manufactured in China, assembled in China, and then importing it. China today has become the epicenter of components, right? Or what we call semi-finished goods. You cannot set that up in a country very easily. We
Okay.
talk about the Make in India campaign that is going on here in India today, right? Let's talk about India. That's a very good example. Um, Make in India is a good initiative, but I think we are 30 years behind Make in India, right? You cannot even manufacture a simple register. You cannot manufacture an IC. You cannot manufacture the good, mechanics as we call for a mobile phone, the covers, the back cover, the front cover, the camera module. There's nothing. We don't have a manufacturing for manufacturing lenses, right? So where will this all come from? It will still come from China. I would say every company that is in China today is looking at how do we make sure that we remove some of our eggs from here and start putting them in some other countries, right?
Okay.
China, I can still tell you, is the biggest market in no matter what people say for logistics companies. A large part of their revenues continue to come from China or
Mm-hmm.
China related areas
Mm-hmm.
and will continue to do so, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
cannot write that off that easily. However, they are logistics companies are weaker in other parts of the world, in Asian parts, I would say. That is where they are now looking to ensure that, along with the demand that might come up in India, along with the demand of manufacturing that will be set up in Vietnam, they are positioning themselves now. So a lot of focus on India, a lot of focus on Vietnam, and some of these countries has started taking place.